Hello everyone, welcome to the video explanation for Brian Passwater's topic 2-1 part 2 notes, example 3. Example 3 says let g of n be a geometric sequence where the third term g sub 3 is negative 2 and the sixth term g sub 6 is 128. Find an expression for g sub n and then use that expression for g sub n to find the 11th term g sub 11. So this is all going back to the directions earlier in the notes for how to find a geometric sequence given two terms. What we need to keep in mind is that those two terms can be used as the nth term and the kth term. What you need to remember is that n is always greater than k. So when we look at these two expressions, we have g sub 3 and g sub 6. This means that we can use g sub 6 as our g sub n value, meaning that g sub n would be 128 and n would equal 6. And we can use the smaller term, k equals 3, to represent the kth term. Now when we do that with our general expression, the only thing in the general expression that we do not know now is the r, the common ratio. So we plug these values in. We have n equals 6, so that goes in here. We have k equals 3, that goes here. We have g of k is negative 2, so that goes here. And we have g sub n is 128. So we plug that in here. When we do that, the only variable that we have left in that expression is r. So we can solve that for r. To solve that, we are going to combine 6 and 3 and divide each side by negative 2 to get r to the third power equals negative 64. And then if we want to get rid of the third power, well, we need to take the third root. So we are then going to take the cube root of each side to get r by itself. And the cube root of negative 64 is negative 4. Which means our r value is negative 4. Now, once we know that r is negative 4, we now know what we need to write our expression, okay? So once we know that r equals negative 4, we go back to that general form equation, and we input k and g of k into there. We could technically insert the other term as well, but we've already got those two numbers labeled as k and g of k, so let's just use them. And then we have now the common ratio is negative 4, so that gets inputted for the r value. This would give us our expression that g sub n is negative 2 times negative 4 to the n minus 3 power. And then if we want to find the 11th term, well, that means we're plugging in 11 for n. So we're putting this 11 in here and here. So that means that g sub 11 would be negative 2 times negative 4 to the 11 minus 3 power, which would be negative 2 times negative 4 to the 8th power. Then we would do negative 4 to the 8th, well, we can just put this all in our calculator at one time. We need to feed that to our calculator carefully. And when we plug that in, make sure you're using parentheses around the negative 4. You also could do it step by step, but your calculator is more than capable of handling it. If we do it step by step, negative 4 to the 8th power is 65,536, which would then get multiplied by negative 2 and would give you negative 131,072 is the 11th term of that geometric sequence.